individuals and a collective.
Lesbian and gay switchboard. How can I help?
So, hi, we're here to talk about your piece, Detention, which for people from around the world, this is about one of the worst parts of recent queer history in the UK. So, before we talk about your theatre piece, can we talk about what Section 28 briefly was about?
So Section 28 was a piece of largely hidden as legislation that was brought in by Margaret Thatcher's government in 1988, which in essence kind of prohibited the promotion of homosexuality.
Yeah.
And it kind of was aimed at a lot of kind of public sector organizations, things that were funded by the government, so things like libraries and community centers, but also schools as well. And schools was kind of one of the main areas that it really kind of hit. And it came out of the AIDS kind of pandemic, so there was a lot of kind of fear and stigma at the time. So there was a lot of kind of moral panic, which ushered in this legislation. So it was brought in 88 and then it wasn't repealed in 2003. So it actually stayed in for 15 years, which is remarkable. And even when Labour came in, it took them 6 years to realise that it was still in there. So a piece of hidden legislation, but with massive consequences, and actually was very damaging to two generations.
How much damage did it do to the young generation? And Gary, do we know if it actually stopped people getting relief for their AIDS?
I think it played a big part. I mean, I went on an amazing but quite horrific research journey where I had to uncover quite a lot of truths about the situation. And I suddenly realized when I was researching that Section 28 it spread right across LGBT. It wasn't just about Section 28. So I read stories that, people were denied funerals and funding around HIV and AIDS, that they weren't given the right information or education, not just because of Section 28 that led up to it, but of course Section 28 didn't help. So yeah, I think it was damaging on so many levels.
We had a financial crisis on because we had the miners' strike too. But I'm here in America, been here for some time, and not as a subject I talk about much, but I'm still appalled how much people like Thatcher here. Appalled.
Yeah,
I think she must have got a better press. She said at the time, you know this better than me, children need to be taught to respect traditional moral values, are better being taught that they have an unalienable right to be gay. All of those children are being cheated of a sound start in life.
Yeah.
I should say, why did it take 15 years for it to be unbanned?
Because of the way it was hidden. I think the government were very clever when they brought it in. I recently learned that the government tried to get it in an education bill and that didn't work. And they tried to sneak it into a finance bill. I mean, they really knew what they were doing with this legislation, and I think they knew it was wrong. And so it wasn't, once it was in, it laid quietly. We called it the silent assassin. It just laid quiet for 15 years and everyone kind of forgot about it, but everyone was living underneath it. And it took someone quite low down in the Labour cabinet to go, oh, you remember that Section 28? I think it's still in. And then when it was repealed, I mean, when you see the volumes of words that were written to actually bring the legislation in, after it was repealed, it was just one sentence. And it just said, Section 28 no longer exists. And it was beneath a clause on dog fouling and cosmetic piercings and skin salons.
What we should say, though, Gary, is nobody was prosecuted under it.
No, but yeah, actually, you're right. What it did is create a lot of fear, but nobody was prosecuted or convicted. So it just created a lot of panic and fear, and everyone kind of going into it, hiding again. You've got to remember at that time the GLF was really powerful, the Gay
Yeah.
Liberation Front was coming. We were kind of getting liberated as a
Hmm.
community. And then suddenly it was like, back in the closet you go.
Yeah.
Well, of course, some people didn't go back in the closet. Some people took to the streets and
Yeah.
fought back, but many others didn't. Many people didn't have the access to do that. So my show kind of touches on both of those.
Why? Why do a show? Why now? What inspired you to do it?
So I'm from a coal mining village called Grimethorpe, which is in the outskirts of Barnsley, and it was one of the largest and deepest coal mines in the UK. So I've kind of grown up around that community. Then the miners' strike happened in 1984, so I kind of witnessed firsthand
Yeah.
um, Thatcherism
Hmm.
as a young boy, and the whole village was really charged up by that. So I've kind of been politically plugged in as
Hmm.
a young age, but then I also lived through the kind of the desolation that Thatcher left after the mines had closed down, and Grimethorpe, like many pit villages around the country, were just kind of left decimated.
Hmm.
Crime went up, unemployment. There was a lot of drug use in the village. There was a lot of domestic violence, arson. She really did damage a lot of these
Hmm.
communities, and I kind of lived through that time. And it's at that time that I started to discover art and creativity as a form of expression. I used to say to people, it was either drugs, die, or dance for me.
So,
Uh,
so why make it a dance theatre piece and not a stage play?
so because, well, I guess for me, when I discovered movement at that time, and that's how I discovered movement. It was a cathartic release for me. So
Mhm.
I found movement not through privilege, but through escapism. And then I went on to become a choreographer and a
Mhm.
dancer. But then I looked at the kind of dance scene in the UK, and I recognized what was missing was kind of real working class storytelling in
Yeah.
dance, and no one was doing it. Everyone was talking about these subject matters in television and film, podcasts, radio, photography. No one was doing it in dance.
Hmm.
So I thought, can I create a physical dance language that can tell these stories? And then I created two pieces of powerful work called Coal and Wasteland, which
Hmm.
looked at the miners' strike and the rave era. And then as I was creating Wasteland, I thought, what else has Thatcher done? Like, I knew she was destructive and I wanted to
Yeah.
find out more. And I discovered Section 28. And then I realized that I'd lived through all of my childhood,
Yeah.
all of my primary school, all of my middle school, my secondary school, my college years, my university years, and 2 years of my adult working life under Section
Hmm.
28
Hmm.
as a gay man.
Hmm.
And it started to make sense to me why my upbringing and why my school years were incredibly hard,
Yeah.
and why I didn't feel comfortable to come out, and why I was bullied, and why there was no visibility,
Hmm.
and no representation, and no language, and no debates or conversations around anything LGBT. So I got fired up by that, and I
Hmm.
suddenly thought this has got to go on stage. So I created Detention as a kind of
Yeah.
response to me feeling quite cheated
Hmm.
from my upbringing, and trying to pick up the pieces and
Yeah.
understand what happened. And then I was really passionate about putting that into a public space and shining a light on this very dangerous bit of
You're in
hidden.
the middle of a tour now.
And
How's the reaction of young gay people in particular to it?
what I can say, well, and which has been amazing, and I
Mm-hmm.
never thought this would happen, is in our audiences we've got such a wide range of generations. You've got LGBT people who were there at the time coming to see the show because they want to reconnect with that
Yeah.
history, but you've also got the younger kids coming in now, and what's incredible is they're walking out of the theatre understanding more about their
Good.
community and the struggles that we've been through, learning about Section 28 as a piece of
Hmm.
legislation, but they're also connecting it to now.
Yeah.
Because I do think in today's society, the young feel like the world has always been like this.
Yes.
And
Yes.
especially with technology and how
Yeah,
quick we're moving, and
yeah.
we're moving at progress, that it allows them to slow down and reflect and appreciate that people died for them to be here today. You know, people had to
Yeah.
fight for us.
How important is it to you that it's us telling our own stories, queer people telling queer stories, queer history? Is that important to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud to say that everybody on stage identifies as LGBT.
Mhm.
I've got a company of exceptional dancers, five of them. I've got a narrator, and then I also, wherever we go, I work with local people from the area who've never had any theatre experience, ranging from the age of 40 up to 80, from all different backgrounds. And we invite them in to
Good.
tell their own lived experience of their struggles through Section 28. So not only is everyone LGBT, but actually everyone's got their own story to
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
I
It's
think,
important to you then to educate as well as entertain.
oh, absolutely. Like I don't set out to entertain with my work.
Okay.
I set out to inform people and shine a light on the world and society. And I want people to feel like all of my work is about feeling. It's
Yeah.
about how they felt and why they felt a certain way. And I want the audience to feel that feeling, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
So they should walk out changed,
Yeah.
or they should walk out affected, and also learning about what they've seen.
Talking about change, though, Baroness Jill Knight, to introduce this, when it was repealed, she apologized, which shocked me when I found that out.
The apology was quite interesting, because I think she apologized, but then she said, "Well, but it wasn't about stopping homosexuals; it was about saving children."
Ah, but it was an
Which is,
apology. The one thing I liked about Dame Jill, which I only found out today, she was forced because she believed that gay men were very good at antiquing.
oh, that's good. At least we've got some use, Roger.
I
You
don't
know,
think she meant looking out for old men, though. But someone's different. So your tour is going where?
we've just been to Nottingham, Manchester, and Huddersfield. Week after next, we go to London to the Place Theatre for a 5 night run. Then we go to Doncaster, Blackpool, Oxford, Newcastle, and Brighton before we
Are
finish.
there any plans to film it for YouTube and that so people around the world can see it?
Not at the minute. I mean, we do film it for our own users, but I
Okay.
think it's a brand new show, which is
Okay.
very exciting for us. But
We
once,
showed a clip at the beginning of this interview. It was really good. Mhm.
yeah, I think once we start to see the potential of it, then maybe there might be a digital element to
Well,
it.
when we finish, we're going to run your details there so people can drive you mad, ask you when it's going to happen.
Great. Well, we do have a website now as well, which is
Good.
great.
That's good. I wish I was there to see it because the clip I've seen is quite tremendous. And that's a very emotional period for me, that Thatcher thing.
Yeah.
Still hate the woman.
There's a lot of emotion when the audience come out. There's a lot of crying and hugging and
Yeah.
holding. And we saw every night we see kind of strangers reaching out and touching each other during the show, because I purposefully gave it a real kind of punch. Like
Yeah.
it really hits in the gut. Like I've worked really hard about trying to encapsulate the feeling of the time. And as you mentioned before, the 80s, that we were in, the whole country was in disarray. We'd had the miners' strike, the AIDS pandemic, the cost of living crisis was I mean, it was just an horrendous time. But I also think from that time, great things happened,
Yeah.
in like fashion and music and
Oh, yeah.
art.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
But I think if Thatcher had her way, she would have blamed the miners' strike and the gays as well.
yeah, I mean, it was all the marginalized communities, wasn't it? That's what she wanted. One of her famous statements was she didn't believe in society. She didn't believe in community. She believed in like the self, the individual, and that the country should be governed by the government and not the people. And she knew that the miners had the biggest union, so she set out to topple them because they had too much power, and she did so.
I was always taught to say good things about people who died. So I used to say, Thatcher's dead. Good. It was great talking to you.
Round here, she had when Thatcher passed away, that everyone had a party.
Yeah, I know. It just it doesn't because Reagan was similar, but he's still held in great mystique here. It's very strange that at least then, in those days, the Dame Jill Knights of the world had to try and support their arguments. Now we're living through a crisis from the Orange Man in the White House. He doesn't bother. He doesn't bother to give an excuse. He just goes for it. And that's what makes me scared. That's what makes me scared that if it rubs off elsewhere, we see Section 8s popping up around the world. That's
Absolutely.
really good to talk to you. Good luck with the talk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
I've been kicked out of my home by my parents because my boyfriend's parents told my parents that I'm gay.